So from what I'm being told, apparently I'm in some type of internet beef with Richard, your boy Zach, and people might expect me to be dropping a diss track right now, or maybe just roast the shit out of Zach. Like, Wes, you must dislike this guy because apparently he went all wild on you and called you names or something. I'm not even certain that happened. I'm almost certain it didn't happen. I think we just happen to have a different set of opinions on a topic. I guess the one that came up was my belief that Josh Brolin is too old to play Hal Jordan, and Josh Brolin will not be playing Hal Jordan. Apparently, he turned down the role. But from the information that was out there, the other two people that were respected to play Hal Jordan were also well into their 50s. Simply speaking, and I think I explained this perfectly well, that if you make Hal Jordan the greatest Lantern from the beginning, we lose the Hal Jordan story. He's just like the mentor. He's Gandalf in the story. And certainly Gandalf plays a great role, and he's awesome in Lord of the Rings. But Hal Jordan is the greatest Lantern. I want to see the journey to becoming the greatest Lantern. I think that's a story a lot of people would want to see, and you're not going to get that with a 50 or 60-year-old Josh Brolin. When you're in your 50s and 60s, you're not middle-aged anymore. You're a fucking grandpa, and that's fine because I'm almost in my 50s. And I guess that's where this came all about, because he disagrees. He wants a more matured up, grandpa age Green Lantern, which is perfectly fine. And I don't think that means that he was like spewing hatred or saying bad things about me. I think it just means that we had a difference of opinion. To my knowledge, truthfully speaking, to my knowledge, Richard and I are still friends. We do email each other behind the scenes. He's never actually emailed me to say, hey, Wes, I fucking hate you, dude. You changed. I don't like your opinions anymore. And don't ever email me again. Now, we don't email each other all the time, but as far as I knew, last time I checked in, he and I were just fine. Now, do I see things happening on his channel that have certainly changed, the tenor of what he's covering on Comics Matter with your boy Zach? Certainly. He probably shouldn't call it Comics Matter with your boy Zach anymore. It's not really a comic book channel anymore. But I can completely understand why Richard might get to this place where you've covered a topic or an industry for 8 or 9 years straight. And you've brought up all these amazing points. You've tried to be an agent of change, sometimes going as far as like mocking and ridiculing the stupidity of things going on within comic books and not really seeing a whole lot of change. You might get frustrated. You might feel like, you know what? My efforts and my talents and my time might be better suited to cover other topics out there. And I completely understand that frame of mind. You do get burnout. Sometimes if you cover something ad nauseum, it does become a little bit too much. So I completely understand Richard maybe getting fed up with the comic book industry and looking elsewhere to cover that with a different point of view that he definitely feels very passionate about. And I think if we've known anything over the last 8 or 9 years that we've known diversity in comics and Comics Matter with your boy Zach or Richard, whatever you want to call him, is that he is a very passionate man about the topics that he wants to cover. And he's doing the best job that he feels that he can on the subject. Me personally, I have a different point of view on it. But who cares? I'm not covering that stuff on my channel because I just want to cover comic books. Let's give Richard a little bit of grace. He has been covering the comic book industry for like 8 or 9 years straight. And he's called out a lot of BS. And he's taken a lot of sticks and stones. And far worse over that time for providing a pretty honest perspective about what's going on with the comic book industry. And a lot of those perspectives, whether they be controversial or not, have played out to be true. They have almost been the downfall of the comic book industry. A lot of these companies are really on their last legs. But also, let's give them a little bit of grace to think about what's happened in comic books within the last 12 months. There's been some crazy stuff out there. I don't know if you noticed this, but the suicide of Ed Piskor really affected the man. I think it has changed the way that he looks at life, the way that he looks at the industry. And that might be one of the reasons that he's taken a different tenor, or maybe he doesn't want to talk about comic books as much anymore. We also lost Comic Storian, and I believe that they were somewhat friends. I don't know if they were like pal, but they knew each other, and he seems to have had a great appreciation for what Comic Storian did. And obviously, Comic Storian died in a tragic car accident this year. I imagine that also was weighing heavily on the man's soul. And when these things happen, life changes. Your perspective on things change. And I do think that with everything that Richard has done, and the voice that he's given a lot of comic book fans over the years, he's allowed to do that. He's allowed to have a different point of view or maybe see things from a different light as things change over time. certainly a lot of things change over an 8 or 9 year period. And I do wish we could get back to where he was roasting comic books and having a good time and coming up with, 50 million different catchphrases and all that stuff. But I don't think we're going to get that Richard back. And that's okay. He's a grown man. He's allowed to do what he wants to do. Just because maybe we've been parallel on some things for a while doesn't mean eventually our paths might diverge and we might go in opposite directions. And that's okay too. If I wasn't his friend, I would be mad about this stuff. I'd be like, how could you do this, Richard? I thought we were in this together. No, you're a grown man and you can have your own perspective on all these things. And I don't have to be mad about that. I don't get mad when people call me out. Anytime you do something like writing or music or YouTube or acting and stuff, once you put yourself out there, whether it be with your performance or your opinions or a combination of all that, which is kind of what I'm doing here on YouTube, you're opening yourself up to criticism from people that are out there watching the videos, or maybe they disagree with you or they agree with you, but they think you changed over time. And that's perfectly okay. I've never really been upset when people say negative things about me, when people say mean things about me. I think that's perfectly okay. Now, early on in the channel, I think I said never. That's probably not true. Early on the channel, I was a little bit more, thin-skinned, I guess would be the way to describe it, to where things would kind of hurt me a little bit. I would take a little bit of offense to things and maybe even lash out from time to time, although I never did it too often. But at this point, I'm 46 years old. I'm married. I got 3 kids. I'm a stay-at-home dad. I have the coolest job in the world. I can take a few slings and arrows here and there, and it doesn't really bother me all that much. And it certainly doesn't bother me when it's coming from a friend. So therefore, knowing that he is a friend, it's probably coming from a place of love and compassion, not contempt and hatred towards me. And I'm cool with that. Now, I do wish, he would cover something else, because I don't want to see, diversity in comics and the legacy that he created there, continuing on with Comics Matter with your boy Zack. I don't want to see him nerd his channel or become actual fandom or something like that. I just don't think, having opinions on other YouTubers that are having opinions on stuff. Now, obviously there is an audience out there for it. He still gets views and stuff like that, but I don't think it's an enormous audience. And the one thing that does confuse me, and I have no problem with what Richard's doing. I wish he would do something different, because I think he's way too talented for what he's actually doing now. And this comes from Jervain Darkin, friend of the channel. A couple of years ago, I was talking to him. I was like, hey, I think I kind of want to talk. I want to cover this. It's not something you would normally see on the channel, but I'm interested in it. Do you think I should do this? It might be a little bit of a controversial opinion. And he goes, does it make dollars? How is this going to make you money? I was like, well, it probably won't. If anything, it might turn some people off, but I think it's interesting. He's like, listen, it's okay to have opinions on everything, but you have a comic book focused YouTube channel and you've cultivated an audience. What are you doing to cultivate a bigger audience? Or what are you doing to make sure that audience that enjoys what you're doing and enjoys your perspective have more stuff to enjoy? If it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. And in that perspective, thinking about it the way Jervain talked to me and made me realize I really am just a small business. That's what I am. I'm an entrepreneur here on YouTube. And I like that idea. I like being kind of self-employed, although I certainly am at the mercy of the algorithm and YouTube itself. But for all intents and purposes, I'm a small business owner, and so is Richard. Obviously, I don't think Richard even wants to be a YouTuber anymore. I don't think he wants to be an internet personality. I don't think he wants to be an opinion maker. I think he wants to be a comic book publisher. He wants to make comic books and be paid for it. And obviously, YouTube is a good way to go out there and get your word out there, share your wares, and cultivate an audience. I would love to hear how attacking cool people like Neon and people that I do like Gary, and others out there in the critical drinker who I have a lot of respect for, how does that make him able to sell more books? Because I think a lot of the people that were willing to support him before, he's kind of turned them off by attacking people that they also like. And I don't think that was a winning strategy in the end. But I might be completely wrong, because I've never been a comic book publisher. But I do find that aspect of all this stuff a little bit confusing. I don't understand how becoming the culture war, YouTube, pop culture hall monitor guy is actually going to help him cultivate an audience and sell more comic books and get more eyes on product and grow his brand in that respect. But then again, I've never done that. I might be completely wrong and out of that, but I will say up front, the only person that he's attacking that I know better than Richard is Neon, and Neon's a great guy. And I think it's a little bit unfair, especially to Neon, because I do think he's kind of he's not neutral, but he's as close to neutral as you're going to get in all this kind of stuff. But I do have a great deal of respect from Gary. I've talked to him a couple of times. He's a really cool guy. Every time I've talked to Eric July, super duper cordial, one of the nicest guys I've ever had on my channel. I just don't have a bad word to say about any of these people. And, you know, who could talk crap about the Critical Drinker? That guy's like one of the most entertaining YouTubers out there. He doesn't even have to really show his face. He just like has a trailer on fucking loop, and he's so hilarious, nobody cares. I have to put a lot more effort into this, you know, just to make people want to look at my mug. So I have a lot of respect, not only for Richard, but for Neon and certainly Critical Drinker and Gary and Geeks and Gamers and Eric July and AZ and all these people out there. I wish they could all be friends, but obviously that's not going to happen. But there you go. I got no problem with Richard. He can go out there and criticize people. It doesn't mean we're not friends. I don't take really any of this stuff personally. And I do believe if Richard really hated me or had a real problem with me, that he would go out there and email me, because we have talked over the years. It's not abnormal for us to communicate behind the scenes, and I do consider him on friendly terms, at least with me. None of this stuff changes that. Like, I don't need somebody to go out there and like defend my honor. My honor's been defended. I am who I've presented myself to be. If you like that and you think I'm a good guy, great. I am a good guy. If you hate that and you think I'm the devil, great. I'm the devil too. I can be all those things to different people, but I am very genuine in the way that I present myself. And if you meet me, you know, when I'm at Dallas Fan Expo or something like that, and we talk in person, you're going to realize you're talking to the exact same person that you've been seeing on YouTube. I don't really dial myself up too much. I don't dial myself down too much. You know, I don't normally wave my hands around, but the only reason I'm doing this is because if I touch my desk, you get bumpy sounds in the audio because I don't have a very professional setup. Although by now I probably should. For the most part, I just do what I do, and I don't hold really any grudges about it. You can disagree with me all day, and I appreciate that. That's why I went out there and served 20 years in the military, to defend your right to say whatever the fuck you want, whether it be good or bad about me. I don't know. I hate to disappoint, but there literally is, as far as I'm concerned, no beef to squash. So there you go. I don't really consider people disagreeing with me to be hateful. You can be as animated as you want. It's not really going to affect the way I manage my channel. It's not going to affect the way I cover anything. I will just keep on chugging along as I do, basically in stealth mode, flying underneath the radar, exactly where I want to be. Now, if you do like my opinions, you're like, Wes, but dude, you're so cool and I would like to support you. Well, you're in good luck, because there's one place where you can support Think Critical YouTube even better than here. It's at Thinking Critical Patreon. There's a link in the video description. And there's awesome, and I do mean awesome, podcasts, bonus videos, polls, all that kind of stuff. Tons of stuff going over on the Patreon. If you haven't checked it out, come and see it. There's only one like me. I'm the one and only, baby.